It's his turn, guys. L-Dragon Destructor FS. The fire door survived L-Dragon Destructor. What a beautiful thing, guys. We are here with him, the Bey whom many adore, the ultimate version of Ryuga's L-Dragon, man. Beautiful thing. Let's analyze this little box here a little, man. It's amazing. Zooming in a bit, we can analyze just a little here, right? Of our little box and see the details that I think are really cool. First, just using this as a base, if I take, for example, the Pegasus box and put it to the side here, we can see some different details which I think are really nice to point out. For example, with L-Drago, since it's a Beyblade that spins to the left, I found it really interesting that they brought the information, which is a characteristic of these Metal Fight Saga boxes, to the left side. For example, the traditional boxes, the character is on the right and the Beyblade icon is on the right. But here with L-Drago, they moved the L-Drago icon to the left side. And Ryuga here. Also here, the part where it says 4D. It's something simple, but it adds a really nice charm for those who like Beyblade visuals anyway. But looking at it here, we can see a bit more of the details of this little box. Specifically, the L-Drago icon and our Ryuga represented down here, who is the Blader, who, for many people and for me, is one of the best characters in the Metal Fight Saga. As a character for me, he's one of the best, but he's still not my favorite. For many though, he's still the favorite. Anyway, the Dragon constellation is represented here, and there's a notice about our launcher that comes with this Bey, which is a left-spinning launcher in white. The standard color for L-Drago launchers, always coming in white. Here at the top, we can see that it's from Takara Tomi's 4D system, which is a Bey that spins to the left, obviously, and that it's an attack type. When we look at the back, we can see a bit more about its features, right? About its parts that make up this Bey, which I think is really cool. Yes, the L-Drago Destructor also comes with a 4D tip, which is really nice, called Final Survive, which is very peculiar because it's the opposite of what Pegasus does. But we'll be analyzing that during the review. Here we have a bit more about the parts and also about the two modes it has, which are basically its absorber mode and attack mode, so to speak. Let's analyze it here. Let's get to know this little monster a bit better, which is a sensational Bey. Well, here I have the 4 parts that make up our Bey. And let's start obviously with our bolt, which is the heart, the icon of L-Drago. Looking closer here, we have the face bolt of L-Drago. And as we've already noticed with Leon's and Pegasus's, L-Drago also no longer has that abbreviation written on it. Or actually, it's not even an abbreviation, right? It used to have the text L-Drago written on the bottom part. They removed that, added a bit more detail to L-Drago's paw, which makes the dragon's design much more evident. I'm on the team that supports having the little text, man. I like the abbreviations, the text, the icons. I thought they were really charming. But even so, it's really beautiful. It kept a bit of the color scheme from Minty L-Drago, right? From the Minty L-Drago face bolt, which is the white dragon with the red outline and the face bolt in blue. And right after that, we have our second part here, which is the fusion wheel. Yes, this here isn't the clear wheel, and this isn't the fusion wheel either. Both are a single piece, which is called the fusion reel. So this fusion reel here has 2 modes since it's obviously from the 4D system. Well, and I want to analyze each part separately first so we can take a closer look at the details before we get into the modes. Shall we? Here in this metal part, man, this is just insane, dude. This metal in a lead color gives this Bey a beautiful and very elegant design, man, making it one of the most beautiful versions from L-Drago, in my opinion. And when I was a kid, I used to think that this red part that brings this fire design, right? Because L-Drago, after he abandons his dark side, L-Drago's color becomes orange, kind of red, as if he were a fire dragon. That he became a purified dragon, right? A sky dragon or something like that. And by adopting this pattern, they brought this design to the Meteo L-Drago, on the rubber part of Meteo L-Drago. And now here, they brought those flames back again on the metal part, which creates a beautiful contrast between the lead color and this red. And when we look from the side, we still have the 3 dragon heads around, which would be the contact points of our real one. This piece is really cool and quite heavy, okay? It really is quite heavy because it gives really nice stability to this Beyblade. Moving on to the second piece. We have this one here, which is the rubber plastic part of ours, this red part that looks like chewing gum, right? When we look at it like this, right? A piece of chewing gum stuck here is actually the rubber part, which was introduced in Meteo L-Drago. So they brought the concept of rubber absorption that was first introduced in Meteo. L-Drago, here for the L-Drago from structure, but now with a bit less rubber, right? Because, you know, but without some contacts, which are the contacts we can switch, which I'll explain in a moment. I'll explain it in a bit. And the others are the plastic parts, okay? So there's a plastic contact and a rubber contact spread around its circumference, these rubber parts and the plastic parts. This rubber is really cool, man. All right, let's understand the 2 modes from now on. How does the combination of the 2 modes work? Well, their first mode is exactly when the head aligns with the plastic part, which obviously leaves the rubber part exposed. So, when the rubber part is on the outside exposed, in this way here, it's exactly the absorber mode, which would be the mode of the absorption back in the Mytho L-Dragon. For those who are used to it, or those who aren't familiar, the Mytho L-Dragon had the ability to absorb, actually, the spin of any Beyblade spinning to the right. And that's also present here in our L-Dragon Destructor, just on a smaller scale, as I explained before. And to do that, you just need to leave the rubber head exposed. As for the second mode, you just need to detach it here and rotate. And then you have its more contained contact mode, where the metal part is more prominent and the plastic part here without the exposed contact, which was the rubber part. And these are the two modes that make up L-Drago. In other words, the more aggressive mode and the mode for stealing the opponent's stamina, which in my opinion is the best mode for L-Drago. I don't see any reason to leave it in its raw attack mode, because that's what makes L-Drago overpowered. It already spins to the left, which is something that makes it overpowered, and it has stamina absorption, right? Spin absorption, which is already super overpowered. And then there's a third point that makes this Beyblade even more overpowered than its previous version. And now we're going to understand why. And here is the third point that makes this base overpowered. The Survive Final Tip. A 4D tip, just like I showed you before, which is very similar to the concept of the Big Fang Brothers drivers. And then you might ask, okay, what's the difference between the final survive on L-Drago and the final drive on Big Fang Pegasus? The difference is that the concepts are opposites. When we spin our L-Drago, instead of starting with a stamina pattern like the final drive on Big Fang Pegasus, it actually starts the opposite way. In other words, L-Drago begins in its attack mode. Through centrifugal force, when it spins, this lever is pulled and the tip stays in flat mode. In other words, it takes on an attack pattern at the start of its spin, unlike Big Fang Pegasus. But when it starts to lose stamina, the tip retracts and it switches to a stamina pattern. So, it starts off more aggressively, crazier, more frantic, spinning around the stadium just like the standard L-Drago, trying to knock out the opponent as quickly as possible. If it doesn't succeed, it will retract the tip, switching to that stamina pattern, with that little tip slightly sticking out. And that way it manages to have more stamina and better centralization. And in this mode, in my opinion, that's what makes it more effective to use the absorber mode. Because when it's slowing down, with absorber mode, you'll steal stamina, you'll steal spin from the opponent, and for sure, win by left of the death or whatever it may be. Because that's the power of L-Drago, and well guys, let's go. Let's assemble our Bey here. Let's put it together here since the process is pretty easy, right? With the parts fitted here on our Fugitive, it really depends on what you want. If you want to leave it in attack mode or absorber mode, I'm going to leave it in absorber mode here, so let's flip it. Alright? Absorber mode activated. I'm gonna grab it here, flip it upside down, take our 4D bottom and fit it into the hexagonal shape here, alright? Let's return it to the original position, grab the screw and tighten it here on the top, and finally give it a little extra with the tool, of course. Now it's really ready. And well, here we have our L-Drago Final Survive, man. This beast here, which is one of the most overpowered bays out there, mainly because first, it spins to the left, which by itself is already insane. Second, it has the rubber to absorb the spin from opponents that spin clockwise, which is to the right, right? And finally, we have its tip, which has both stamina and attack, which is something insane. So when your base starts to lose spin, it switches to a stamina movement pattern. And then when you're in absorb mode, which is the rubber mode, it ends up stealing energy from the opponent. That's really cool. Of course, if you face a Bey that spins to the left, the absorption is completely effective. So it makes even more sense then. That's why it has this other mode. You use its aggressive attack mode, which you activate just by changing the part. Gene will using the rubber part. And that way you can face other Beys, like Gravity, Destroyer, or Variaris for example, which are also Beys that spin to the left, and prevent them from beating you. Because in absorb mode, it won't work to face Beys that spin to the left, because it just doesn't make sense. It can actually absorb because it's spinning counterclockwise, because of the right spin spinning clockwise. Anyway, this Bey is a monster. It's just insane, man. The details, its colors, it's really beautiful. Seriously, I'm in love with this Bey, man. For real. But anyway, I want to do the battle tests, right? Because in theory, all of this sounds wonderful. But in practice, we know things are totally different. So shall we go do the tests? But before that, well, I want to ask you guys to leave a lot of likes and subscribe because this video deserves it, man. L-Drago Destructor, truly legendary, insane. A lot of people love it, and so do I. And also, become a member, man. When you become a member, you help the channel bring in more special products, better quality, and so on. All right? But anyway, let's test out this little guy, this monster, which is the legendary form of our L-Drago. Let's go. All right, guys, let's do the battle tests here with our L-Drago Destructor, starting against Fang Leone. So, it's an attack battle, but in the counterclockwise direction against Fang Leone, which is a defense type, a legendary battle since both are from the 40 system. Let's go. So, let's start by spinning Leone, since he's a defense type, right? So, I launched it really straight here, and now I'm gonna launch L-Drago. Drago Destructor a bit tilted. Okay, it already managed to go straight at Fang Leone, hitting it hard. Knocking it out of its comfort zone. How's L-Drago Destructor doing? Trying to chase it, it already activated its stamina mode, which I hadn't even explained yet. Did you guys see that? It spun the guy out of nowhere. Boom, stopped spinning like crazy and activated its stamina mode where it stays centered. And it knocked Leone out of its comfort zone, right? Since now Leone isn't in its usual spot, which is the center of the arena. Look how crazy that is. It's really bizarre to see these things happening, man. Who's gonna win this, guys? Who's gonna win this battle, huh? Will it be Eldar Destructor or will it be Leone? They're trying to drain each other's energy. Eldar Destructor's rubber is sucking the energy from Fang Leone. But I think Leone's going to win, huh? I think Leone's going to win, guys. And Leone wins! Thanks to that thing I explained to you in the previous Left After Death video, which is that special feature it has. One extra spin when it's about to stop spinning brought victory here to Fang Leone. Well, now I want to do the battle test with the stamina type, which in this case will be Flame Libra from you. Two bladers who belong to the Dark Nebula. And of course they are no longer, but this clash between these two bays will still be interesting. Eldar Destructor versus Flame Libra. Let's go! You are the Endurance type, I will cast Flame Libra first. Throw it straight so as not to damage it. And launch the Destructor at a slight angle. He's already come in hitting hard. Wow, what a quick battle. The guy already knocked his opponent out of the arena with a devastating attack. What a beautiful thing. Victory for Drago Destructor, right? That's all. Another battle I want to do here is also between these two bladers from the Dark Nebula. In this case, Rages, which is Poison Serpent, the balance type, against our L-Drago Destructor. Let's go. Alright, let's launch Poison Serpent here. Start with it since it's the balance type. I'm gonna launch it really straight and now launch Destructor. A bit tilted, but not too much. It didn't get in the way. Wow. Wow, what was that? What was that? Destructor. Didn't even give me time to comment on the battle. The guy just landed one hit and it was over. Same thing he did with Libra, man. What a beautiful thing. Beautiful, man. Alright, let's do a battle between generations. The first version of L-Drago, which in this case is Lightning Drago, against its final form, which is L-Drago Destructor. Let's see how this goes. Let's start by launching Lightning Drago. I launched it semi-tilted and now Destructor. Here we go. Wow, what an insane chase from L-Drago Destructor. Wow. Destructor is taking everyone down, man. He's not sparing anyone. That was a wicked hunt. I've never seen L-Drago Destructor spin as fast as this. Right now. It spun fast, landed a hit on our L-Drago Destructor, sent it flying out, and Destructor already activated its existence mode, finishing with a charm. With the elegance that comes with this victory of destruction. And now I want to do a version between the myth. It was here that L-Drago introduced the rubber against the destructive one. Let's see how it does. And man, this version here from Minty's radio, L-Drago is just too beautiful. Let's start spinning here, okay, Destructor? I'm going to launch it at a slight angle. And now, the myth. I was also in the okay. One myth hunting the other, trying to hit from underneath on the juice side. But it must be because of the attack. It's already activated its mode, and I think Destructor's going to win because of the rubber, see? I told you Mitchell's rubber isn't going to help at all. Because this battle here is exactly between two bays that spin to the left. That's exactly it. There's no way to drain. Because both spin in the same direction. And then there's the guy's rubber, which will try to absorb the other bay, but it can't. Precisely because this bay also has rubber. In other words, it cancels out Mitchell and Drago. Man, what a simplistic battle, dude. This just completely shut down Mitchell and Drago's key move. And well, guys, to wrap things up with a golden key, it has to be the battle between these two legendary bays. Big Bang Pegasus, Jinka's Bay, against Ryuga's L-Drago Destructor, the two strongest bladers in the series with their final versions. Let's go! Alright, let's launch Big Bang Pegasus first, because it already starts kind of in its stamina mode. Let's launch it a bit more centered. And the Destructor at an angle, shall we? Okay, so it can attack head-on right away. It's attacking like crazy, Pegasus has already activated Final Drive there, if you saw it. Look at the man's Final Drive, training in action. Final Drive activated, Destructor has already switched to Stamina mode. It was an exchange of effects happening in this battle, just like in the anime, man. That's insane, man. Both bays trying to win by stamina there. Destructor is draining, but it's not able to activate. And there's big Pegasus, guys. That's crazy, man. That's crazy, man. Pegasus didn't just take out Destructor, but also Fang Leon. For those who haven't seen the Fang Leone video, Pegasus won that one too. Man, that's crazy. Pegasus has beaten everyone so far, proving why it's the main bay and one of the strongest in the series. L-Drago Destructor, you tried, man, you tried. Anyway, these were the battle tests for L-Drago Destructor, which had several amazing battles. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. So leave your like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time with another video. We're in this together and let it rip.